Wife, cheating with a billionaire! This was one of our beta test projects testing a process I had invented. A billionaire friend of our owner had talked him into installing the system in his Miami mansion, even though I argued at the time that it wasn't ready for that level of field testing. I mean, it's one thing to install it here in Ohio, but Florida? Now we have to send someone down there on a regular basis to test and maintain it. It was an unnecessary expense that was going to my project on which my bonuses would be based. But the boss is the boss. It's his money. And it's only my ego that suffers when the costs of my project are out of line. He justified it by saying that the real test would be the heat and humidity of Florida. And now, of course, there was a massive failure that was probably beyond the ability of the repairmen we were sending out to service the equipment. It was obvious that I was going to have to go out there myself since I'm heading up the project. We had to set aside a few days to test and run the equipment long enough to make sure the problem was fixed and that it wouldn't fail again. Normally, a multi-day trip to Miami with a few hours of work per day would have been just fine, but Rosalie was off again to visit her sister in Denver. Miami alone? All I could count on was overeating and probable sunburn. With Rosalie, it would be dancing, dinner, and great, sweaty, energetic sex. We both love South Florida, with the heat coming in through the open windows and our sweaty bodies sliding across the bed. Then more sex under a cool, refreshing shower. Gotta hurry, I thought, hurrying home to pack. I hate missed or lost opportunities. This was one of them. While my secretary booked the hotel and flight, I packed my bags and rushed to the airport. Before heading to the airport, I sent a text message to Rosalie to let her know where I would be. But then I heard a distinctive beep from her closet. There, on a shelf, lay my wife's cell phone. I laughed. She had left it there more times than I could count, putting it down, changing purses, and hurrying away before picking it up again. Her sister and I never got along, so I didn't have her number. No time to look for it now. I'll figure out how to contact her later. At the airport, I managed to get on an earlier flight, so I hurried to board. I didn't need an early flight, but I hate airports and would rather be in Miami than in a plastic seat at the airport. Called the clerk at the airport to alert the customer that I would be arriving in the afternoon instead of the morning. So less than 7 hours after the problem was reported in the morning, I was already knocking on the client's door, or his double doors. It wasn't a mansion. It was a mansion. An usher, a real employee security guard, whose job it was to open the gates and let people in and out. Keyboard and camera weren't good enough for this dumbass. I expected at least a butler in a penguin suit to open the door, but instead it was W. Wilson Storm, a billionaire I recognized from news reports about him. Surprised that he deigned to open his door, I was about to introduce myself when I heard a voice say, "Are they finally here, honey? We'll have to hurry if we want to make it to the ballet." Where the stairs transitioned to the landing that girdled the second floor like a balcony, there stood Rosalie, wrapped in a towel and drying her hair with a second towel. I knew that look. I had seen it after many sweaty experiences. I was numb, feeling nothing. Not anger, not even denial, just numbness. Depressed, I thought. What a stupid cliché. What a cliché. Upon seeing me, Rosalie shrieked and dropped both towels. It didn't take me long to notice at least 2 kisses that I knew I hadn't placed on her. "No!" she screamed again, grabbing the towels. "No! Danny, it's not what you think! Please, I love you!" I found myself outside, the door closing behind me. I threw my toolbox into the rental car and headed back to the gate. But no sooner had I reached it than it hit me. I yelled. It hit me, and I couldn't back away from it. I had to fix this stupid HVAC system. My marriage might have been ruined, but my job was as important to me as the success of the project. Before knocking on the door again, I turned on the recorder on my phone. I didn't want my word against the billionaires. A little more time passed, but W. Wilson opened the door again. "You can keep that, cheater, but I still need to fix your unit. I like fixing his unit with a blowtorch," I thought. My wife, dressed in a robe, hurried down the stairs. "Danny, thank God. It's not what you think it is. It's not love. I'm not in love with him. It's not even about sex. It's just money. He takes me to places we can't afford. But I love you, honey, and Wilson doesn't mind sharing. As she rushed toward me, I turned and punched Wilson in the stomach. As he groaned in pain, Rosalie stopped at the foot of the stairs, her eyes widening in horror. I leaned over and whispered in the billionaire's ear. She even came near me. And you're the one I'm going to hit. Understand? He nodded and gestured for Rosalie to return to the stairs. She hesitantly obeyed. Now just show me that block and I'll leave you to have sweaty sex with your paid cheating girlfriend. This elicited a yelp from the second-floor landing, but Wilson straightened up a bit and led me down the basement stairs. There sat my baby girl in all her glory. But what happened? Where did all those dents and scratches on my car come from? You didn't like having sex with my wife? Did you have to have sex with my invention? Now I wanted to cry. This car was perfect. He could have my cheating wife, but why did he have to ruin my baby? It wasn't working, and the fever was intrusive. I thought maybe a couple strokes would make it work, was his pathetic reply. Go back to your cheating girlfriend, I said. Or call the police or security if you want. Just leave me alone to fix my machine. He silently walked away and didn't hear me ask, Wait, do you smell gas? The leak was obvious, and I talked myself into fixing it by turning off the gas and opening the windows above ground. Then I remembered my phone and turned off the recorder. I'm ashamed to admit it, but that's when I cried. Whether it was because of Rosalie or because of something expensive, like my beautiful car, I'm still not sure. But it all came crashing down on me at once. I don't know what stage of grief I was on, but it began to include anger. Raw, cold anger. In the end, the problem turned out to be just a badly soldered connection that took me less than 10 minutes to find and fix. It took even less time to damage another of the gas ducts. It took another 2 minutes to remove and break one of the overhead light bulbs and position the wires so that they sparked. Before leaving, I screwed it back into the socket and closed the door behind me, which was at the bottom of the basement stairs. At the front door, I could hear Rosalie sobbing upstairs and the billionaire comforting her. Sort of like, Look, Rosalie, he's not going to take you back. My wife was sobbing and wondering what she should do, because she loves me. You can stay here with me, honey. We may not love each other, but you have to admit, we're great for each other. Have you ever been better served? I could hear the sobbing diminishing as my wife pondered this. Then I heard her say, No, not now. Please. I heard what sounded like a plea with a couple of, Come on, please, a little more clearly. I'd heard enough. Hey, asshole, shouted I. Suddenly it was quiet upstairs. I'm leaving, and I won't have to come back at all if you do one thing for me. Yes, what? Sounded in reply. Leave the appliance alone until tomorrow, and then check to see if there's any water around the base of the appliance. If there isn't, it's fine. If there is, I'll have to come back. But call me by 9. I laughed. There was no water in the unit, but he'd go down there after the room filled with gas leaking from the damaged pipe, flick a switch at the top of the stairs, and, well, he was going to use my wife, so I'm going to punish him. If the cops have any questions, I recorded the asshole admitting to beating up my car. Oh, yeah, I yelled as I walked out the door. And you can keep the cheating asshole. Have a nice stay. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.